Good morning, Montreal. We're joined in studio today by Karim Boulos to break down the city budget. Welcome.
Thank you.
Overall, your impression of this budget that the mayor put forth yesterday?
Nothing glamorous, nothing exciting. A necessary budget. I think it's time that we try to control certain amounts of spending, while at the same time, things cost more. You know, we've got a huge workforce in Montreal. We have huge expenditures in terms of infrastructure. Right. Money has to come from somewhere. It's a painful reality. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. Everybody would rather have a lower tax burden every year. But that's just not the case. That's not the reality of today. There's just too much spending, and Montreal's lived beyond its means for so long.
Especially in this budget, that's what's top of mind for the average viewer, I think, is when you hear, oh, property taxes are going up. And for certain boroughs, 11 out of 19 boroughs, it's gone up. For certain boroughs, the Plateau, the Southwest, 4.5 and 4% increases. Why?
Well, those are a function of local taxes. I think there's a base. The overall tax burden has, Mr. Karim kept his promise and said it's going to go up by less than inflation, which it has.
Right.
However, some boroughs are not getting enough money according to what their constituents are asking for. So they've levied local taxes, which are not levied by City Hall. The overall tax collection by the city has remained the same, in fact, right on par with what they expected.
Because Denis Coderre keeps saying, when people are complaining about these property tax increases, he keeps saying it's not me, it's the borough.
Yeah, well, the increases, he's kept the increase to 1.8%. So yes, there's a slight increase as was planned, which is normal, maintaining the rate of inflation. The boroughs have had to bring in either new taxes for services, for infrastructure investment that they're not getting from their budgets from the city, because the city has to dole out the money to the budget to the various boroughs. And if a borough can't make ends meet, either it cuts or it levies a new tax. It happens in a lot of places. If you want to have a pool built, so you levy a tax for 2 or 3 years, or if you need to get something done specifically for a main artery of transit or whatever, you need to find that money immediately, and it comes out of taxpayers' pockets in that particular borough.
Other noteworthy features for you in this budget, what would you say are noteworthy features? Well,
I think overall it's something that's been neglected for a number of years. We've spent money on and off, outsourcing to different suppliers in terms of infrastructure improvements. I think overall his decision to reduce the workforce by about 2,000 employees from here to the next 4 years is a wise move. Montreal has been known to have a bloated workforce, a lot of people doing the work on top of all the outsourcing that goes on. So I think from that perspective, it was good. STM continues to need money because public transit is a component of any major urban city. So we need to have that piece working if we're going to get people in and through our city for work, study, and so on. I think overall, it's, could this have been done over 2 or 3 years? Probably. We could have kind of lessened the blow and made it, easier for taxpayers. But the reality is we've had about a dozen years of mismanagement and negotiations that have maybe given too much to some and not enough to others. And Mr. Coderre, I think the surprise in all this is that he's dealing with it in his 13th or 14th month as mayor. People didn't expect him to do it right away.
Right. Some people might interpret it as him rushing to get it all done.
Well, you can look at the Robert Bourassa situation. Let's name a street and let's just fix all these things that were lagging over the years. This is a biggie. Fixing the whole tax structure, the spending structure. Montreal is spending way beyond its means. He's saying enough is enough. And if you want a man of action, I guess he's showing that he's not afraid to make decisions.
But back to the cuts to the labor force, 2,200 jobs. You said that Montreal is known for being bloated, but that's a lot of jobs. Is the city going to be able to function properly with that many cuts?
Well, I think per capita, Montreal has one of the highest number of civil employees, municipal employees to resident or habitant ratio. So I think Montreal has to find a way to do what it can with what it has. We've got 29,000 employees when you factor in the police and the fire department as well. So we have a lot of people working for this city on top of the contracts we give out. So, one would say with all these people, we're not getting our money's worth. So if we're not going to get our money's worth, let's just trim back and keep the essentials.
Finally, I have to ask you about yesterday's day of disturbance. Do you think that city workers, this kind of 24-hour strike action will really have an impact on what ends up happening with the pension reform?
Bad negotiations are not an excuse to continue to suck the system dry. So the negotiations were poorly done. Fair enough, it was negotiated, but the reality is Montrealers don't have the capacity to pay. No one said you're losing your pension. No one said we're taking away money. We're not going bankrupt. But the alternative is what? we can't pay, therefore the city stops paying. I mean, 50% seems fair. It's fairer than my deal, fairer than many of the other people. It's not the city, it's not the government, it's taxpayers who are paying these pensions. It's you and I who have to fork over more money to ensure that these people have a comfortable retirement. As much as I'm very happy to contribute my share, I think 50-50, by all accounts, is a fair share. And so this is just, their behavior yesterday was shameful, and I think that you're not making anybody's life any easier or making your case any more sympathetic.
Karim Boulos, always an interesting chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got more.